Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Happy Friday. I hope you guys are doing well. We're going to be doing live readings on the channel this evening. We're going to be doing astrology again. I wanted to kind of get back on track with doing the astrology readings around the time that we have the new and the full moons, getting ready and caught up for eclipse season. So some of you guys are like, wait, where's tarot? We'll have tarot next week. Do me a favor, if you can see the stream, please give me a thumbs up, like the stream, let us know that you're here. We're going to give everybody a little bit of time to shuffle in, because by interacting with the live video, giving me a thumbs up, sharing it, it's going to let other people on YouTube know that we're live. So it's really helpful if you guys don't mind doing that. Happy full moon in Aries. How's it going, guys? I know we've got a number of people here who are waiting. What's up, Ripples? Thanks for joining level 3. She decided to do astrology again. That's correct. What's up, Mari? Hey, Mima. You can book the reading if you guys want. What's up, Enchanted? Claudia, I'm happy to give you your reading. Just send me your info again. Elizabeth. How's everybody doing? Jennifer, Nat. All right, so here's how this works. If you're new to my channel, basically we are going to be doing Western astrology readings. You're more than welcome to ask any one question you want. So I ask you guys just keep it to one topic. Please be specific. You can ask a question about a timing situation. You can ask about a particular situation in your life. You can also ask about a natal aspect. So if you want me to break down a natal aspect, or if you have a question about that in your natal chart, I can do that as well. But for you to do that, I need you to scan the QR code right here. It's going to take you to somewhere around here. I think it's right here. It's going to take you to the PayPal, and you're going to make your donation. So it's $55 US for a reading, for questions in regards to your natal chart or a transit reading. Once you go to my PayPal, make sure you put in your information in the memo. Very important. For me to cast your chart, I need to know your time, date, and location of birth. So please, I'm an American, spell out your month. Make sure you put the AM or the PM for the timing, and the city, state, and country. You can find that information on your birth certificate, or you can call your mom and you can ask. But yeah, if you don't have that information, no worries. We're here basically every other week doing these readings. And I'm a Western astrologer, so those of you guys who are questioning, that's the deal. It's okay. So if you guys have sent it without, please send that now. And those of you guys who are just tuning in, make sure you send that information, because I plug all of the charts early so we can get through as many people as possible. Especially because astrology ends up being a little bit of like a longer evening for when we do readings. And it is a full moon, so we're going to have a lot of questions probably this particular evening. Okay, so let me plug Claudia in really quick. October 2778. Girl, there's gonna be an eclipse on your birthday. Do you know that, Claudia? But I'll touch on that for you. Okay, so here's who I've got in the queue already. So we've got Tonga and Claudia. You guys are the level 3 people I'm going to take. And then I've got Richard, Matt, and Alice. I don't have my phone on me, so if you have already sent it in, if you can send it in the chat, that would be helpful if you can send that information. But I have Richard, Matt, Alice, Tonga, and Claudia. And then Charlotte got in there too. That's who I've got so far. So Nat, what is your name under that you booked through? And Mima, what is your name under that you booked through? If your name differs from PayPal versus YouTube, please let me know, because I'm going to think you're a completely different person. Yeah, I think it's the 28th of October. There's going to be a lunar eclipse in Taurus. So if your birthday's somewhere around there, Natalie. Okay, cool. And then Mima is Charlotte. Okay, got it. Is the date of birth, time, location have to do with the book reading? No. So when I need to have your time, date, and birth location. The time is going to determine your ascendant. So I know the chart order of the signs in your chart. We can look a lot. We can look at just your moon and your sun, but I prefer not to do those readings because they're not as accurate. But some astrologers will do like a 6 a.m. rising chart, or they'll do sun on the ascendant. But got it. Got it. Thank you, Natalia. Appreciate it. Or Natalie, excuse me, Natalie. Okay, so and then I saw Enchanted popped in. So Enchanted, we do, just for the sake of bookkeeping, we just do them every month. And I think we have you last week, if I remember correctly. It was either last week or the week before that, but I do have you in here. So next week will be tarot, but if you're hoping to get questions about the eclipses that are coming in, definitely come back next week, or come back for, we'll do one more reading probably for the eclipses. The eclipse is going to fall, I think, on a Friday, but I don't do readings on full moons. We're doing it tonight, but I don't usually do that, and I definitely don't do them on eclipses. So just as a heads up for you guys, we're probably going to end up doing the astrology for the solar eclipse in Libra like a day or two early. So we'll post that date. We'll probably end up doing it like on a Wednesday or a Thursday, but we're gonna do that one early because I'm gonna be busy. Okay, cool. Each reading is generally about 10 minutes maybe, or long enough to be able to give you a thorough answer about what you got going on. All right, so with that being said, is there any level 3 people? What's up, Deanna? All is well. Just got mine through. I need a general reading. You got it. Yeah, so just let me know. Okay, so let me get this stuff up so we can see what we've got, and we'll get started. Obviously, Tonga, I don't know if you're here. I know you sent me the email to make sure you get a reading. And then we will take Claudia. And I'll call your name. So if this is the first time that you guys are kind of checking in, I always appreciate your guys' patience. Please just give me a little bit of patience because it can take longer to get through the list. Once you make the donation, just let me know, and then I'll update you guys probably every couple of readings. I'll let you know who's kind of gotten in. We'll probably leave the queue open for like 20 minutes or so if you guys want to sign up. And then we'll kind of go from there. So I have Tonga to do your reading. I hope you're doing well. Also, for some reason I got some weird thing on PayPal. PayPal doesn't alert me to anything. So I saw like a month ago we missed you. So I just want to say I'm really sorry. I didn't realize we missed you until PayPal sent me a thing and was like, hey, that there was like a chargeback. So I apologize for that. I did not see that until about a month later. All right, so I've got you here February 20th, 1975 at 4:53 a.m. and that was in Baton Rouge. And your question is, I'd like to use my membership for today's reading. I just received notice that I won't be able to bill for the majority of my caseload for 90 days. I'm starting a coaching service, but I understand that it may take time to build my brand and receive clients. What do you see in my transit or natal charts that can support finances and housing stability during this significant period? Thanks in advance for your insights. So I got you here, girl. So you're Cap rising with your sun in Pisces, and you have moon in Gemini. So, just some food for thought, okay? So, traditionally, and I'm a Placidus user, but you do have a bit of interceptions in this chart. So traditionally for a Capricorn rising chart, Aquarius is the second house, which deals with money, finances, personal possessions, all that stuff. And you do have that intercepted in the first house. So long story short, Saturn rules both your chart as well as your technical second house of money. All right. And any which way you slice it, whether you look at your whole sign, second house, Lord, ruler, Saturn in the second house, Saturn going into the third household sign, that can be about you setting up like websites or getting like social media ready, or like focusing on, how you're communicating and connecting with people to make money. it does represent being in a period of structuring that right now. Now, the good news is that besides the second house of personal income, we look at like the sixth house of daily routine and habits. We look at the 10th house of your actual, public reputation. And you do have some really interesting things that are kind of coming. So I'm going to give you some food for thought on some of this time. First things first, knowing that you're a Cap rising and you're getting ready to have a solar eclipse in Libra here on the 14th in about 2 weeks is an important point, because it's about planting a seed revolving around what you're initiating with your career. So mid-October is kind of like a time where you're really going to start to see this energy build. Technically, it's in your 9th house, so it can be about teaching and coaching, but it can also be about advertising and marketing. And then shortly after that, you're going to see planets move into your Placidus 10th house of career. Scorpio is about changing and transforming. It can also be about encouraging other people to do that. So I like that you're doing coaching with that placement. And you're going to see some nice stuff. Like you're going to see, Mars move into Scorpio, which is its ruling sign, which creates more drive, dedication, more action in regards to work. And then Mercury, which is going to be business. So as these planets are swinging into your 10th house and they start trining your second, I anticipate this being a very positive time, a very productive time for working and making money, especially because it's going to trine your Venus and your Jupiter in the second house. So that's about having some kind of abundance that's stemming from some kind of therapeutic, helpful, right, Pisces healing type of situation. And then you're also going to see these planets come into a trine with your natal Saturn. So for me, it's like the second half of October and all of November is the time that is going to be like really putting it all out there. You'll see another wave of this happen also when Saturn goes direct and it's in conjunction to your sun. And I think that's really, for you, a lot about learning how to define your career, who you are, what your worth is, knowing what to ask for. And Sun-Saturn transits, it doesn't seem to matter like where the transit is, generally is a very strong period for building on, your career, your skills, your goals, right? So it can feel when Saturn's in conjunction to your sun that's like a year that is just a lot of hard work. And you have a relatively aspected sun. Your sun is in a square to the nodes. And it's also in a square to Neptune and also slightly to your moon. So long story short, really focus on putting that work out and getting things going in October going into November. And then as Saturn is coming off of the conjunction with your sun come the new year, and then it starts building a trine with your natal Saturn, you're really going to see the bulk of this starting to pay off round about the beginning of March of 2024, because you're going to have a stellium of planets, Sun, Saturn, Mercury, Neptune, all coming into your second house of physical resources, trining your natal Saturn of, healing other people, and also trining your midheaven. So it's like full steam ahead the next 2 or 3 months, so you can really reap some of these rewards likely come about, March, April of 2024. I also feel like when it comes to, home and resources, there's another storyline that's kind of building here. One is going to be the fact that you are going to experience a Mercury retrograde on your or around your ascendant / 4th house ruler, Mars. This will be in the new year. And, both Uranus and Jupiter are in full steam ahead, coming into conjunction with your 4th house next year. Now, you could, if you wanted to, you could read Aquarius horoscope because you are a late degree Capricorn. It may be helpful for you to hear what astrologers are saying for you in regards to Jupiter and Uranus coming into conjunction, because you're going to hear it's going to be a lot of sporadic changes going on with you emotionally or with your home or with your family. I've seen a lot of people who have had several moves or several destabilizing situations with those 2 planets in your 4th house. The positive is that it is possible that you may find opportunities to move, to relocate, to make changes, which could lead to having more stability or more comfort, security, pleasure, all of these like Taurus related things. Now, that may not be something that's coming until the spring next year, but I have to say, between eclipses in your whole sign, 4th house, and Jupiter, Uranus moving into your Placidus 5th, both of those are really kind of glaringly obvious that it is very possible that there may be a change on the home front. I also am watching Saturn starting to come into a square with your moon. You know, moon in the 5th house of speculation does represent, okay, I've got this business that is about me connecting with people emotionally. You know, is it going to pay off? Saturn in the 2nd house is saying I got to make sure I'm getting my worth so I can afford my cost of living. So, you know, for now, I definitely feel like there is going to be a really productive period, but I also feel like there is something very sobering about Saturn squares that make you realize just whether or not something's going to cut it. And I do see your moon in Gemini, which belongs to your whole sign 6th house, which seems to indicate you are a multitasker, or you may be somebody who has one job and you have something on the side. And you may see next year there is like a balancing act that comes up with Jupiter going into Gemini, that you're like, okay, I can work from home, but I can also do my coaching business, and finding ways to be able to do both things to facilitate, you know, being able to, you know, kind of cover your bases financially at home. But yeah, things are going to get really lively as Jupiter and Uranus get closer and closer to each other, and you're coming into your Chiron return. So that happens somewhere, you know, late 40s, early 50s. Chiron returns back to its home placement for you. That's taking place in Aries in the 3rd house, which could literally be about like moving yourself, living on your own, you know, like what it takes to be able to go and do some of these things by yourself. And then you've got nodal activations as well. From somebody who has natal Uranus in the 4th house, who understands like the effects of the destabilizing within the home base, I would just say roll with the punches. Jupiter coming in is more or less giving you an opportunity to do something that might seem a little crazy or a little sporadic or a little different, but it might actually end up being something that is a lot better for you in the long run, because you're going to see these 2 planets start trining your ascendant. So it might be somewhere that's more conducive to being able to do the work that you want to do, right? And Saturn is, you know, come back into your 2nd house. So I've never seen a Saturn transit that's not about kind of tightening the belt. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. Lots of good vibes to you with those business transits. When I was going through the same transits, that's when I started my business, when Saturn was going through my 2nd house, when it was coming into conjunction with my sun, and it was a pain in the ass because it was a year of having to work full time and also build my business. But now that I'm, you know, 7-8 years into it, and I've gone through the Saturn square, I'm so thankful that I did it, because it was basically what kind of set me up for what I'm doing now, you know. Good luck. Hope it's helpful. We've got Claudia. Pull up Claudia's info. All right, so Claudia, you just want to know, are things gonna get easier? I've been going through so many challenging moments, painful losses this year. Are things looking up soon? All right, well, let's talk about it. Let's commiserate together as Libra rising Scorpio suns. Here's you know, part of what's kind of been going on, right? There's been 2 really significant transits, especially recently, that have really been kind of possibly knocking the wind out of your sails. One is, you know, as a Libra rising, you're very sensitive to Venus transit, whether that's transits to your natal Venus or that's transit Venus in the sky. So since, you know, right around like mid-June, we started seeing Venus come into shadow, which basically means we were seeing a situation where your chart ruler was going back and forth and reevaluating what makes me happy and what are my goals and who are my friends. And in your case, it was going actually mostly through your 10th house. So it dealt with your career and whether or not you like what you're doing, and if you feel like you need to make changes in what you're doing, and if there was some change to your status coming. A little uncomfortable because it was also in a square to all of your personal Scorpio placements. And anybody who's got this many planets in the 2nd house, even though you're very much a Scorpio, I resonate with this a lot. I have the same stellium in my 2nd house. you are almost like an honorary Taurus. So there is a lot of fixation on what feels good, what tastes good, what looks good, pleasure, resources, your finances. And so when you have squares that are going on between the 11th house of goals and the second house of, personal possessions, what you find is that there's a lot of like asking yourself, like, do I have the same goals still when it comes to finances? And like, do my relationships with my friends feel, productive? And do I feel safe and secure? And, where do things kind of need to change? So that way I can kind of get my, my values kind of rebalanced, so to say. You have been in your Uranus opposition here in the last, 2 years. And you've also had Uranus come into opposition with Mercury. So likely there's been a lot of, challenges and conflicts with other people when it comes to money and resources, and also, just belief systems. So it does create some rather argumentative, confrontational, challenging type of dynamics with other people. And the finale has been the last month and a half when Uranus, the planet of change and unexpected kind of ups and downs and twists of fate, especially in the 8th house, came into opposition with your natal Venus. So that means that there can be windfalls where suddenly it's like an amazing amount of money or an amazing opportunity or some kind of epiphany or breakthrough shows up and it gives you the opportunity to heal. But the 8th house is inherently crisis. And so it's like watching this opposition play out while this retrograde was going on was creating a T-square in your chart. And what was happening, it was trying to show you like what your goals really are or who your true friends really are. I don't know exactly how that played out for you, but Uranus is still going to be in opposition to your Venus for the better part of like the next year off and on. And I noticed that you have Venus conjunct Mercury and Mars. So there seems to be a lot of like changing directions when it comes to either your possessions or how you spend money or your relationships maybe with other people. So you have to take into consideration that this opposition is also not just opposing Venus, it's now starting to come into an opposition with Mars, which is definitely going to still create some challenges with relationships. In the back of my mind, I keep thinking about, once again, next year. I mean, I feel like I've been screaming this from the rooftops. April of 2024, if those of you guys who have been following my channel for the last year or two, you know that I talk to you about what's coming a year down the road, right? Because I'm like, okay, this is why you're going through this now, because that's happening. So in the same way I was telling everybody that this was going to be the year that we were really going to start to realize why we were struggling, and now we have the breakthroughs. 2024 is like those of us who took chances, who got out of our comfort zone, those of us who ripped off the Band-Aid, ended the bad relationships, left the jobs. There is freedom on the other side. There is some kind of huge breakthrough that's going to come in April when Jupiter and Uranus come into conjunction. And so for you, when that conjunction happens in April, it's going to be in exact opposition to your Venus. So to me, it's like, are you learning to open up and be more vulnerable and telling other people that you feel like you need help financially? Right? Because it's second house and that's your possessions versus 8th house is other people's. Is it learning how to have breakthroughs in intimacy and vulnerability in intimate relationships? Is it learning how to embrace, making some big changes with your investments? Is it that, somebody else's loss is your gain? Like, do you get an inheritance? Like, does something out of the blue happen where like you get some support? Any of these things can happen. I guess really what I'm getting at is that yes, in a way, things are going to get better, but I'm also going to be a realist with you. And I think Uranus in opposition to Venus is going to show you where your values and your relationships with money, and in this case, other people, is just going to just change very, very radically. And then two, that's interesting. I've never seen a commercial during live. That's new. The other thing that also comes to my mind is that you're having an eclipse that's going to be right on your ascendant. So I want you to make a note of October 14th because that solar eclipse will be directly on your ascendant. Mars is there now, so you probably already feel a little agitated. And you have Chiron approaching your descendant, which is wanting to heal something in regards to relationships. So it's like your chart's kind of lit up. And can I see it getting easier? Yeah. But I also feel like this is a lot of relationship healing that's coming. This is a lot of hitting restart with that solar eclipse on your ascendant and being willing to kind of let go of things that are probably not good for you. And a lot of needing to come to terms with like things that you think provide you with value that may not necessarily provide you value, or food that you really like that's not good for you but you still eat it, or ways that you spend money that may not actually, they might buy you things but they may not bring you happiness. So it's going to be teaching you a lot about give and take and the willingness to make radical Uranus changes when it comes to either food or intimacy or resources. And it's trying to teach you vulnerability. So if there's any other like mid-degree Libra risings that are going through this, I would really, really recommend, especially with eclipses in the 7th house, and in your case, Jupiter's in the 7th house, North Node in the 7th house. 7th house can be counselors, therapists, your astrologer. It can be coaches, life coaches, health coaches. And if you're having some difficulties in the relationship department, then like coaches of some kind can definitely be really helpful as you go through some of those transits. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Yeah, somebody said ads during the live. Wow, change the live ads. Interesting. Okay, well, sorry guys. Everybody's like, what the heck? Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think I've ever seen that before. But, the holidays are coming, so YouTube wants to sell you guys stuff. All right, so hopefully that's helpful, Claudia. Keep me on the up and up. Come back and let me know what happens. And take it easy right around that eclipse, because Venus is going to be in the 12th house. It means that you need some spiritual healing. Those of you guys who are tuning in, we'll put the QR code up here sometime soon. If you guys want to jump in the queue, we're going to leave it open for like another 10 minutes or so. How's everybody doing? Does anybody else have any horror stories yet for the full moon? Because this full moon happened this morning, but the worst of it is yet to come. So if you guys haven't already seen my full moon in Aries video, check that out, because it really starts to kind of hit you in the face tomorrow. All right, so who else do I have here? Okay, so we're going to go Richard, Matt, Alice. Let me update this list and let you guys know who I have. So Richard, Matt, Alice, Charlotte, Natalie, Janae, and who's rocking B7 Ranch? Send me your birth info. What are you doing? All right, so let's pull up Richard. Yeah, I'm kind of sick of these Aries transits. I have an Aries moon. Chiron's really close to my moon, and I've noticed every single time the moon comes into Aries right around Chiron, I get a migraine every month. And I'm like, okay, it's been like 4 months now that I've noticed that this happens every single month. It's the worst. Wait till it comes into conjunction with Chiron and squares Pluto tomorrow. Watch that. That's going to be fun. Okay, so let's see what Richard has to say. What's up, Richard, if you are watching this? Richard says, my question is, what is coming the next 5 or 6 months looking like in general terms around career or married life with my partner? Okay, cool. Let's take a look. Well, my eyes immediately go to your South Node eclipses and the stuff happening in your 7th house. So obviously, Pisces rising, moon in Pisces, sun in Virgo. But you have a killer amount of planets in Libra. And that South Node just popped in there recently. So just some food for thought. These South Node eclipses, especially between now and let's say January, is really dancing on your Pluto. It's dancing on your Pluto. And this is a once in a 18-ish year transit, okay? So Pluto and Libra generation, people born, in the late 70s into the 80s, is about a generation of people who are working through power struggles and karmic related matters within relationships and finding the balance of what does and does not work. So when the South Node swings through there, and we also are seeing eclipses that are activating your Pluto in about 2 weeks, you're going to be seeing themes revolving around that are going to come up. For example, when the South Node hits your Pluto in the 7th house at 22 degrees, it means that your partner may be finally releasing, working through some kind of power-related issues with career or work, some long-standing issues that they have had. 22 deals with work, it deals with professional life, it deals with goals, it deals with aging things, skin things. In the sign of Libra, I wonder if it's going to be like how they're embracing aging. It can also be about them working through some stiffness or some mobility issues, just working really hard on themselves. And the South Node represents tapping into past life stuff, but it's also what we let go of. So I would imagine you're going to find yourself saying to your partner a lot over the next couple of months, like, stop being so hard on yourself. Be kinder to yourself, and you may observe them going through a period of just, really, really needing to let go of anything where they're trying to white knuckle something or they're trying to control something. And they're having to kind of like let it go gracefully. You will, in mid-October around the 14th, have a solar eclipse right on your Pluto. And technically it's in your 7th house. So this all deals with other people. So it might be things that are out of your control. It's about clients or friends or partners or what have you. But it is in your whole sign 8th house. So I feel like this can be some unexpected changes going on with your partner's resources, with their money. If you have a client-based business, it can be that. If you have some changes also maybe with like how you're budgeting money, because Libra represents another person. 8th house represents, like what somebody else is spending, or there might be changes in regards to, how you guys are investing money or where you're banking, or there might be a sense of somebody saying, I've had a cut in my resources. I can't spend as much. So something like that, okay, your partner has it at 20 degrees in Libra. Okay, so it might be about, your partner's relationships, literally 7th house Libra. It could be your partner, 7th house Libra, their friends, their relationships with other people. But that's gonna zing a little bit. And you'll see throughout the eclipses, even in the spring, there's gonna be some other stuff that's gonna be impacting your Libra placements. The good thing is that you have an exalted Saturn. Saturn is what starts the stellium in your 7th house. So you might also realize that there are certain people who come back in to kind of help you in your life. For example, your 7th house is your relationship with your astrologer. So it's like you're popping back in and getting a reading with me. That can literally be how the eclipses work. I think the key here is to take into consideration the fact that you have so many planets in Libra, so you have seen where a lot of your karma lies with your relationship to your spouse, or it lies to your relationship to other people who you're close to. And I think about this year and the next 2 years, as Saturn is going to start opposing your sun and coming into conjunction with your moon, there is going to be this lesson as Saturn is making those aspects, and as the eclipses start up in Pisces, that you're learning to look at some people and go, that's not my shit. That's not my shit. That's you being indecisive, or that's you, not making the best decisions, or that's, something you need to work on. So I'm not saying that it's going to cause problems, but ask any Libra or Aries rising right now who are having these eclipses. The nodes are very much showing you whether the energy needs to be directed towards being relationship oriented, or if it needs to be redirected at yourself. And so next year, we will start seeing eclipses happening in Aries again. And that's going to bring the attention to yourself, 1st house. And then we're also going to see one in Pisces. And that North Node is going to swing through your 1st house. So there's questions like, what's best for me? How do I feel? What's going on with my health? How is my body? That kind of stuff, right? And like really needing to do your due diligence to learn how to say, okay, I'm going to support, but I'm going to do it and take a step back, and I'm not going to get consumed with other people's stuff. Career stuff is a completely different situation. I mean, you've got Sun coming into conjunction with Jupiter. You're going to have planets that are going to be conjuncting Jupiter. It can actually indicate some really great relationship opportunities with people at work. So like getting along better with people, you know, having more job opportunities, being able to meet clients if you're in a client-based business. Certainly, I think next year when the South Node hits your South Node, there is a possibility that you may consider a change at work. And I'm also thinking about the Mercury-Mars conjunction that's going to be happening. Mercury will go retrograde, and it's going to come into conjunction with Mars, and Mars cuts and it severs. So right around the end of December of 2023, that will be happening what appears to be right on your midheaven. So that can represent you being like, I'm changing positions, I'm, you know, they're having cutbacks at work, I'm changing my hours, I'm, you know, fighting for a new position. Sagittarius seems to be more about philosophy, and what you're going to hear as a Virgo is that it's changes potentially going on with your home front. But the 10th house is actually your partner in their living situation. And it's going to be going in a retrograde in a square to your ascendant or your descendant. So I would be on the lookout and see, well, is something coming up possibly where your partner is saying, well, I'm getting kind of restless, you know, let's move the house around, or should we move, or, you know, should we relocate, or, you know, do we want to rent somewhere else? And you're going like, what the hell? Like, you know, what about work and how this impacts me and how this impacts you? So there may be a sense of you just having to kind of stop and take a breath at the end of the year and really assess whether or not that's something that makes sense. But definitely it's going to involve either your relationship with someone that you're in a relationship with, or it's going to be your relationship with your boss at the company that you work for, because Mercury rules that relationship in a professional sense. You're going to see naturally with the eclipses in your 7th house and Saturn coming into an opposition with your sun that there is a need to really look at some things and go, yeah, like, you know, I can't tell you what to do, like to your spouse, or, you know, what works for you, and then give them the space to do that. Because part of Saturn and Neptune coming into contact with your ascendant is about learning to like let other people work through crisis while you're trying to stay more kind of like zen and in a state of meditation and like not letting other people disrupt things. And you might look at this and go, no way that's going to happen. No, we're good. We're fine. And it's not problems with your relationship. It's problems with your partner. And you're going to look around and you're going to realize like, okay, you know, they have to be better about being decisive and making decisions. Perhaps you'll see more of that kind of shine through in 2025 when the South Node's getting closer to Saturn, and, you know, Saturn is on your ascendant and you're learning to just let them kind of work through things and figure it out, and not allowing it to kind of disrupt you. So that'll be interesting to see Saturn on your moon and to also see Saturn in opposition to your sun while these eclipses are happening. Would not surprise me if it's also a time where you're also hearing from people from the past, people who you were in relationships with, people who you were friends with, people who you worked with. That may start kind of popping in here as well. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Just in the back of my mind, I think that the bigger transit that I would be watching is the fact that you are getting ready to have an eclipse on your Pluto. I would start there. And that'll be in mid-October. And then come the turn of the year, you're going to have Pluto back on your South Node. And that's also pretty significant because that is going to represent a complete changing, transforming, purging, something about your friends, your goals, something of that nature. So that's going to be on and off there pretty much all next year, but it's going to be returning, you know, come the new year. So that South Node is ruled by Uranus, and you have Uranus technically in your 8th house. So you might notice that there's just lots of changes going on with your relationships with some people, with some of your friends, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Let me know. Keep me updated. But maybe look back in time also. You know, look back at what happened the last time the South Node went through this part of your skies. So this was really similar to the end of 2004 into what appears to be the beginning of 2006. That was the last time the South Node went through here. Okay. All right, so who do we have next? We've got Matt. What's up, Matt? How's that full moon on your ascendant, my boy? How is today been? Are you wigging out yet? Okay, so Matt says, asking about what's coming for me in love. I've been on lots of dates, but nothing has led to much substantial, and I'm wondering what I can expect, what I could be doing differently, what I can expect differently in love. All right, so, well, kind of a little bit of flippy floppy from what we were just talking about. So let's see what's kind of working in your favor. Well, you've got a number of transits that are definitely looking nice, in my opinion. For starters, you've got the sun coming into your 7th house. So that's shining a light on other people, bringing more action, revolving around your goals when it comes to relationships. So you get that once a year, and that definitely highlights relationships. Equally, you have got Mars, which rules your chart, coming into conjunction with your moon, which is nice. That might be like a really sexy encounter. That's going to be right around the 6th of October. Mars, moon. You are Mars. Moon can represent some kind of romantic partner. Can also be somebody from the past. 26 degrees, 7th house in Libra. So you might meet a Libra or a Taurus. It could be one of those two. Libra, Taurus, maybe a Cancer, but this is a Taurus degree. Somebody shorter, pretty face, lighter features, distinguishable voice. And then, you know, Libra is obviously somebody who could be more like relationship oriented. But I mean, one of the best, I think, transits for, you know, romantic encounters is going to be a Mars moon conjunction, because that's just going to be like a lot of like intense emotional passion and connection. Mars is the planet of sex. So Mars is in its fall, obviously, but that conjunction is nice. At the same time, you also have transit Venus finally coming out of the retrograde shadow, and it's going to conjunct your Mars. So I don't know exactly what date the 6th is. I guess I'm going to assume it's right around next weekend, but that's right around the time that happens. The only downside is you are going to see Mars square Pluto, and the moon will come into a square briefly there as well. So if you're not crazy about that, then you could pick it up when the moon is coming into conjunction with Lilith and Juno, and Mars is still on the moon on the 9th. But all of those transits are generally pretty positive because you're seeing aspects in your 7th house and with your 7th house Lord. The other time I would be paying attention to is quite literally going to be the eclipse. You're going to have a solar eclipse at 21 degrees. That's close enough for it to affect your moon. You haven't had an eclipse here yet, but I had an eclipse in my 7th house that was within like 9 degrees of my moon, and it definitely affected my moon. So your moon is ruled by Venus, and you have Venus that is technically in the 9th house in Sag. So that eclipse could also be an indication that somebody is getting ready to come in. So that'll be reactivated, for example, when Venus hits that degree. So then, okay, we look at a new cycle or a new seed being planted for relationships October 14th. And then here we go. We have another transit, Venus conjunct Chiron, healing wounds in relationships around November 4th. Venus in your 7th house around mid-November. Then you're going to have Venus coming into conjunction with your moon December 1st. And then we have Mars coming into conjunction with your Venus. So it's like, you have so many nice transits. Mars will conjunct your Venus here around mid-December. All of those times for me seem really significant. I'm especially looking at this Mars-Venus conjunction while Venus is on your North Node. So I would also really be paying attention to mid-December. Obviously in the background, something that's just worth considering is that, because you are in Aries, the South Node eclipses in your 7th house are not doing you any favors. It's going to do one of two things or both. When the South Node eclipses come through, you might realize that you're like, you know what, like relationships aren't happening for me right now. I can't be pursuing them. I can go out on dates, but I'm not going to have any high expectations. I really need to focus on me. North Node in Aries in the 1st house, especially with Chiron being there, is healing the self, feeling okay, being alone, not feeling like an outsider. And sometimes when you do that North Node work, especially when you're in the midst of the North Node work and it's in trines to your 7th house Lord, which it will be, and then you have transits involving the 7th house Lord, it can just bring somebody in because you're in the state of healing yourself. So then you're going to see Venus coming into conjunction with like Jupiter. So around early January, and then you're going to have your Venus return. And it looks like you're going to have your Venus return right around the time that there's sextiles to the South Node. So then mid-January would be another time. But essentially, yes. And, the way that eclipses work is that you're going to want to give it, the full eclipse cycle. So for example, then we look at when you have the full moon in Libra. So this will be the completion of the 6 months from the solar eclipse. We'll look at this right on your descendant. So that is ensuring that some kind of relationship is coming full circle. Well, Venus is the ruler. Venus is in the 12th house. It's conjunct Saturn. Could that mean that there is some kind of karmic relationship at play? Yeah, and more so than not, when I see the South Node, going through the 7th house and there's eclipses, people come in who are soulmates or people who you're meant to meet or people that are from the past that come back around. So you're not quite old enough to reap the benefits of the one that happened 18 years ago, obviously. Maybe even 9 years is pushing it. I mean, I will say that, I think I've said this, when I had these eclipses in my 7th house, I met my husband, but he didn't come back around for like another 8 years when the North Node was coming back into my 8th house. So it is possible that you can meet somebody who could be very significant, who can stay, but likely these are people who either you have some kind of past life karma with, or it's somebody who maybe you've had a connection with in the past and then like they kind of come back around. That's possible. But you have plenty of time with these transits. That's not the only thing that I would look at. Something else that I would take into consideration if you look at this would be your progress chart. And so your progress chart and your progressed 7th house. And so this is another way, those of you guys who are like, how do you predict relationships? The progress chart is like probably one of the best things you can look at. So this is how this works, right? I double down and I make sure that I can see multiple transits that are happening across the board. For starters, your 7th house is Scorpio, right? And you have, oh, look at that, moon coming into conjunction with your 7th house. Well, the progressed moon takes about 2 years to go through any given sign. So it looks like right around the end of January, the progressed moon is going to move into Scorpio. However, this progressed moon is in Scorpio, which means it's intense, it's passionate, it's sexy. There can sometimes be some drama. It's not happy in that sign. But can that indicate that there is a really passionate, deep-seated, emotional, sexual relationship that's taking place? Absolutely. It only goes through there about once every 28, 29 years. So then you're going to see the moon change signs. It's going to come into conjunction with Pluto, which will be around September of next year. And the moon represents the 3rd house. So it looks like there might be some intense conversations revolving around feelings. And can that be an ending or a renewal of a relationship? Yeah, but it can also represent what is Sagittarius. Traveling together, ceremonies, talking about long-term commitment, living together, right? And then the moon will come into conjunction with Jupiter. I mean, like, honestly, with transits like this, could be a really significant relationship that shows up between now and, like, let's say February, and sometime between the moon conjunct Pluto and moon conjunct Jupiter, which would be in spring of 2025. It could be getting engaged, getting married, Moon Pluto in the 7th house, sometimes a partner gets pregnant, so forewarning. And then on the back side of this, Pluto does rule, so that's pretty significant, the Moon-Pluto conjunction. But on the other side of this, Mars is the ruler, and Mars is retrograde in the 4th house, and Venus has been retrograde through here, and your progressed Venus is in the 9th. So, long story short, the progressed chart does seem to indicate that something else is coming in. And sometimes you can take these charts and you can compare them to the natal and see if there's anything also that would be, kind of coming through the natal chart, right? So where that progressed moon that's moving through Scorpio, now it's going through your natal 8th house, which is about a significant change and transformation, and it's a very intense connection. And it looks like you've been on the hunt for the last, couple months since the progressed moon's been on your north node, since about April. And you can also use the progressed chart to better kind of predict changes that are coming as well. And, that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is going to be right here. So that means there's going to be a really significant change for you spring of next year. Okay? Progressed Saturn, Sun transit, woof. So there's a lot of things going on in your progress chart. I would encourage you to maybe take a screenshot of this, and you can look at the transits to that. That can be really helpful. Okay? Hopefully that is helpful for you. Good luck. Okay, so now we are on to Alice. And after we have Alice, I've got Charlotte, Natalie, Janae, Stephanie, and I don't know, did we get, who's Rocking Ranch? Who is that? No worries, Enchanted. And then we have Danielle and Christina who got in there too, okay? All right, so this will be for Alice. So Alice, Charlotte, and Natalie, you guys are all on deck. All right, so Alice is December 31st, 1990. And you are Scorpio rising, Sun in Capricorn, Moon in Cancer. My ascendant is 29 degrees. In some, others are Sag. Personally, I resonate with being a Sag rising. All right. I have a job interview on Monday, the 2nd of October on site. It's a 2-hour drive. Let's pull that up. Okay. It's a 2-hour drive. I heard on your October horoscopes for Sag that this day wasn't great for job interviews, but I didn't really have a choice. So I'm hoping it's not that bad. If all goes well, I would relocate there and start ASAP. I need to find an apartment. This job would allow me to finally leave my parents' home and have financial stability. Those are my top 2 priorities. How is it looking? It would start as a 3-month contract and then get renewed in March. Okay, cool. So, just food for thought. Sometimes when you hear things about the transits of the day and, this, that, and the other, it can literally talk about it's not the most ideal day for an interview, but for example, you're having to drive 2 hours away. So it could represent that limitation, right? Like getting there in that sense. But jobs in general, like office spaces, that's your 6th house. And that literally on that day, the moon is in your 6th house. So the moon will be, coming out of a conjunction with Uranus. So, that's also food for thought. You're ahead of me, so I'm just going to assume that, let's just say it's somewhere around here. So the moon conjunct Uranus can represent sudden unexpected changes in regards to, your schedule. Uranus represents the 3rd house of communications. I would say you just want to double and triple check, make sure you have the right address, make sure you know where you're going, make sure maybe you leave 30 minutes early, right? I know these things are probably self-explanatory, but these are things that I would consider during this day. The other thing that's worth mentioning is that you are going to have Mercury at the top part of your chart. So that's great for communicating, talking to people in regards to business. It is going to be in a trine to the moon and Uranus. So that to me feels like as long as you're on top of like electronics, vehicles in your schedule, it'll probably be fine. The issue is that Mercury is in opposition to Neptune, which just generally means lots of room for miscommunication, haziness, misplacing details, information, getting lost with GPSs, right? Neptune can be screens. But this is a great example of astrology. Mercury represents business, being at work or traveling, communicating. Neptune represents home. So you're literally having to get out of your home, go to the furthest distance away from your home, the midheaven, to be able to communicate and talk to somebody about getting a job. So, sometimes astrology prevails and there's not really a lot you can do about it, but make lemonade. I think what works in your favor also is the fact that this Mercury transit is trining all of your Capricorn. So what an amazing day to see the moon activate with Uranus saying, I'm willing to have a change in my schedule, a change in my location. It's crazy. Yes, I have to leave my home and go and talk to somebody, but it'll give me the opportunity to make money and also move. So I say go. I think I would stay the path. I do think that, something else that is worth mentioning is like for Scorpio risings, even though I know you're a Sag rising, but for Scorpio risings, you do have Venus that's finally getting ready to come out of shadow. So as soon as Venus starts hitting about 28, 29 degrees, then we're going to see some kind of an opportunity for you to like get wind about some new offer in regards to your career. So my feeling on this is like, watch the moon when the moon comes into conjunction with Venus in your whole sign, Sagittarius 10th house. And what's going to happen here is you might get some kind of offer. And the moon and Venus is like the sweetness of being able to get something. So it's bittersweet because Venus in the 10th house is going to be recognition, but it's going to oppose Saturn, which means you're like, now I got to figure out how to move Saturn in the 3rd. And I got to find an apartment. I got to sign a lease. I got to talk to my mom about the fact that I'm leaving. So that in itself makes me wonder if you get an offer that soon and you're in the process of, getting ready to move. The other thing that's worth mentioning is that you do have another kind of moving for work type of transit as well that comes down the road. This is going to be towards the end of the year, but your Mercury is right in the line of fire with a Mercury-Mars conjunction. And Mars, in my mind, okay, I know that you're like, I'm a Sagittarius rising, but like, no, you're a Scorpio rising. By Placidus standards, in the last minutes. But the only way that you're really going to know, and I don't know how much you study astrology, but start paying attention to Mars transits. If you feel like things happen in the very last moment and they happen very quickly, right, 29 Scorpio, then you're a Scorpio rising. If you feel like everything is like big and, expansive and, otherworldly and things that are more kind of positive, optimistic, Sag rising stuff, you'll kind of like get the you'll get the hang of trying to, better understand like where your rising sign is. I've seen some astrologers, and I've had this personally because I have 2 planets that are at 20 something and 59 seconds that have both been like, oh no, it's the next degree up. But I don't know about this because from what you're telling me, like if you are a Scorpio rising at this time, your Mars retrograde really makes sense because Mars is retrograde in your 6th house of work and it's in a sign that's very slow. So you may feel like you're always ready to go and work and make money, but you may be feeling like there's limitations with other people taking sometimes too long to be able to kind of get to you. So there's still more stuff happening. If it's not going to be the end of December where there could potentially be a move, you're looking at Uranus coming into conjunction with Mars, over the next year or two, and that's going to create also lots of changes with work and relationships as well. So that might also be a really important point to kind of watch as maybe Jupiter hits your Mars next year. If, you do suddenly either get into a relationship or change jobs, depending on what happens right around the time of that particular conjunction, that may help you better understand if you're a Scorpio rising or if you're a Sag rising. So watch for that, because that looks like that's going to be right around May 11th through the 23rd. So if you start a relationship around that time, I would be like, you're a Scorpio rising. If you end up starting a new job right around that time, then I think that you're going to be more like a Sag rising. So that'll be a good way to be able to kind of figure out which one's which. But technically, by mine, you are a Scorpio rising. But yeah, to me it looks positive. I do think that you're going to be moving. I think the other reason why I think you're going to be moving is because Saturn is getting ready to station in your 3rd house. And as it stations by about a degree, because it's at 0 degrees, so it's almost 29 of Aquarius, it's squaring your ascendant. So it's almost like you're kind of backing up and rethinking, okay, you know, am I going to move? If I'm moving, you know, do I have the job, Capricorn? Because remember, retrogrades, you want to think of it as like a rear view mirror. You're looking back at the previous sign. You're looking back at the previous house. So what is Capricorn's 2nd house? Do I have a job and am I making money? I can't move until I have the confirmation. Well, Saturn's about to go direct. So round about the time that Saturn goes direct, by the beginning of November, you know, you're already on your way, probably with moving and everything, because you are making money and you have a job. So that's the other way that I kind of look at this. Challenging, Saturn square the ascendant and the descendant, but you'll be out of it in the new year. And good job mojo to you. Let us know how it goes. Roll with the punches. Leave early for that interview. That's my recommendation. So we've got Charlotte, and then Natalie, and then Janae. Let me catch up with this. Felicia says, what sign are we on? I always get a kick out of when people come on the lives and they think that I'm doing like live sign by sign ascendant readings. Maybe one day. Those take me so long to do. If you guys haven't already seen the horoscopes for October, they're out. And they are so long, but there is so much stuff going on in October. They had to be. Thanks, Murphy. Okay, so for Charlotte says, wondering what career is right for me, struggling to find a passion and fulfillment. Born December 5th, 1998, at 4:30 p.m. in Moncton. What's up, Tonya? I did not see you. It was, but you're a member, so if you want to sign that info, let me know. I will add you in. Okay, so we have got here for Charlotte, she is a Gemini rising, Sun in Sagittarius, and the moon is in Cancer. So when I assess a chart for work, career related things, I look at a number of placements in the chart. I start with first looking at the chart ruler because I feel like that's really important. And in your astrology, you have your ruler, which is Mercury, technically in its fall, which means it's in a sign that it can be more challenging to kind of function in. And it's in the 6th house, which is strong for health, organization, habits, routine, and it's retrograde. So some food for thought on this. You know, you have a pretty strong 6th house signature. Okay, so it's not just Mercury that's there, it's Pluto, which can be about obsession, fixation, research, the occult, you know, mysticism, and the sun. Okay, so you have a very kind of highly tuned mind, so to say. That conjunction together is like somebody who wants to research and they want to like dig deep into things. The 6th house can be people who work in the service industry, people who work in healthcare, people who work with animals, people who work with, you know, like taking care of people or hospitality. The sign of Sagittarius makes me feel like it's more about philosophy. It's more about education. I don't know if this has ever come up for you in particular, but you should have some kind of like an affinity for horses. Has that ever happened? Sagittarius is horses, ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is conjunct your midheaven. Like, did you ever want to be somebody who works with like a veterinary office? Did you want to train horses? Did you ride horses? Did you ever have an interest in being like a vet's aide? Has that ever come up for you? I'm going to assume you're here. We'll see. Then the other way that I can look at this is looking at your 10th house, which is Aquarius. And here you have your South Node. So, okay, she says, no, never. So here you have your South Node, which means that karmically speaking, in the past, you did a lot of 10th house work. You were a business owner, you worked for people, you ran things, you were a manager of sorts. Like, you have a lot of experience in that sense. With the South Node being there, being ruled by Uranus, it tells me that you're carrying into this lifetime some kind of past life understanding or knowledge pertaining to Uranian topics, spirituality, mysticism, astrology, tarot, all that stuff. This is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is in the 9th, which tells me that you would prefer to do some kind of work that is Uranian, unusual, kind of rebellious, freedom-esque. In theory, this also means that you could do some kind of work with these topics for sure, especially people who have like Sun conjunct Pluto. They're really drawn to metaphysical topics. They're really drawn to psychology. They're drawn to mediumship, to clairvoyance, and you have all of those conjunctions there. The problem is that it's in the 6th house, and it means that you need the skills. So if you decided you wanted to do something like this, you could do it, but you would need to go and do some kind of training. So you would need to know how to go about doing it. I think the other thing is, and the reason why I think this is coming up for you now is because you're a Gemini rising and Saturn is in your whole sign 10th house, and you're trying to figure out, what do I want to be when I grow up? It has nothing to do with your age. It has more to do with your transits. I've seen people who are 45 years old who are going through this right now, and they're trying to figure out what they want to be as well. I'm always really quick to tell people who have a stellium of planets in the 6th house that you have a tendency to want to make sure that everything is perfect. And you kind of have like this Virgo quality to you. They say that the 6th house is about being of service to others, right? Because it's 12th house to the 7th. So you sacrifice something for other people. When you get married, if you're a 6th house sun, eventually you will be somebody who takes care of your spouse. But if you're not married, then there's a lot of taking care of other people until that happens. So you have two options, right? One is you can focus on furthering your relationships, and then there will be some sense of natural understanding of awareness of like, okay, now that I've settled my relationships and I have support, I can figure out what I'm here to do. Or I would recommend going in the direction of doing something that's going to be in the health or healing field. And it doesn't mean you have to become a nurse or a doctor. Actually, I think that you would do really well in like the metaphysical arts field. And I don't know if that means that you want to do some like Reiki healing, or if you decide that you want to do, you should be very drawn to like tarot and divination, because your Mercury is at a 3 and it's retrograde, which means it's looking back at Pluto. This is definitely something you could do if you have the skills, if you build the schedule, if you're willing to kind of dedicate and put in time to help other people with this. But I also wonder if you would have an interest in like animal communication, or, you know, being able to maybe work at a center where people are using animals and they're working with people for like rehabilitation type stuff. That's something that you would also do very well with. I know that sounds very specific, but just food for thought. And then finally, Venus does rule your 6th house of work and routine, Libra. And you have Venus in Sagittarius in your 7th, which is great for having clients and being able to work with people and being able to service people and talk to them. If this were me, because you're going to have Saturn in your whole sign, you know, and your Placidus 10th house for about another year and a half. In theory, as much as I hate to say this, what's supposed to happen next year when Saturn comes into conjunction with your Jupiter is like you're going to have one of several things that's going to happen. One is you may very well come into a much more serious like routine for your career. But it also means at 19, you might meet a significant partner at work or somebody who helps further your career, but they could also be like a romantic partner, like a long-term partner. This is supposed to be right around like May of 2024. So if you are in a relationship, the relationship will get more serious. If you're not in a relationship, then changes through your career will kind of align you, I think, with somebody who might be a really significant person who not only will help you with your career, but it can be relationship oriented. I have Reiki 1, I'm clairvoyant, I do card readings, I can read animals, but no clue how to make that a career. Well, you just make it a career, right? I mean, the truth is that there is no linear path towards that. I think that what can be helpful is if you try to fine tune some of like your animal communication skills. Maybe you volunteer to go and work at a place where there's horses. I know this sounds so weird, but you have exalted Jupiter in Pisces and you have planets in Sag in the 6th. So you may be able to do some work as an animal communicator. Maybe you can like work with like a veterinary assistant. Maybe you can go and find a center that's like working with people who are mentally disabled or physically disabled, or maybe they're veterans, or other people who are doing some kind of rehabilitation program, right? Sun Pluto can be like detoxifying, where you might go and find like a place that's like, yeah, we bring people in who have physical and like mental related issues and we have them work with the animals, and like you could do some kind of like training with them, right? That could be really great for some of your placements. I have the same placements as you. I have Sun, Pluto, Mercury in conjunction. It's in Scorpio, but it's the same conjunction. And like, I have found that the only thing that really works for the people who have those conjunctions is you have to be really fixated and really obsessed with what you do for a living. And you should know, because if you have Mercury retrograde, I don't know if you have like attention issues, or if you are dyslexic, or maybe you've had some learning ability disabilities. But if there's something that really interests you, like you're like laser focused and obsessed with it. So you're not the type of person that's just like, oh, I'm going to do whatever. Like you have to do something very specific. And I would really love to see you in a position where you're having clients, because I think it'll kind of cool and kind of calm down a little bit of like that obsessiveness that comes from relationships. Because Sun, Pluto, Mercury, Venus in the whole sign 7th house is like, holy shit, that's a lot of relationship drama, and that's a lot of having issues with other people and not always feeling very settled, because there can be a lot of intensity going on with other people. So when you replace that with clients, right, 7th house, and you have people that you work with and you help them through transformation or trauma, maybe you do have an interest in learning about like mediumship. Then you can use these planets to better use, or put them to better use, so you're having like less like conflict in your romantic relationships, right? If that makes any sense, right? Yeah, spirituality, Sag, do yourself a favor, start working with Jupiter, start doing things for Jupiter, start learning about Jupiter, start doing things on Thursdays, maybe doing a meditation with Jupiter, getting some Jupiter incense. Find ways to ritualize that regularly and start getting in touch with that. And if you do have more of an interest in like mediumship or animal communication, then you need to start working with somebody to help you develop some of those skills, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Really cool chart that you have there. All right, so we've got Natalie, Janae, and then Stephanie. Let's see. I'm here with the birth dates. Let me read this here. Okay. Hey, Candace, I know we touched on the subject a few times, but now I have a more visualized idea about where I am with my work and the process might look like. To segue, I've been more spiritual. I've been sitting with the idea for a few weeks. My tarot readings and the idea of a little all over the place, yet accurate, overall positive, i.e. the World, Knight of Swords, reverse jumping out, Two of Swords on the bottom, Knight of Pentacles with the High Priestess, 4 of Pentacles. I've put 12 plus years of my life into wellness fitness, and it seems haphazard to just discard. The idea is to begin building my own company that features fitness, wellness, along with spirituality-based health discussions like hermetic teachings, tarot, archetypal work, and so forth. Along with birthing the brain comes the necessity of needing more alone time. I currently live with my partner, and he is helping support me financially. No, it's okay. It did cut off though, so I don't see the rest of it, but I kind of get the gist of like what you're asking. I'm going to assume, but I don't want to assume. So you're trying to start a business, awesome. You're trying to get that going with the experiences that you've had, great. But then there was the other side of this that says, but I'm getting support from my partner. So let me know what else you want to know, and then I'll kind of wrap on some stuff that I see. Libra rising, business stuff in general, you've had Venus going retrograde in your 11th house, which is not just about friends, it's the 2nd to the 10th. So it's about how you make money from what you do. So the Venus retrograde has been, how can I drum up more money? What's going to stick? What's not going to stick? What services do I put out there? What's potentially going to sell? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you live with him and you don't have a workspace. Got it. 2, you starting something or getting ready to launch something in some ways is also going to be tied to the moon. So full moons, right, or transits through Cancer, or when you have transits on your natal moon, are going to bring opportunities for things to shift in regards to your professional life. Just some food for thought, okay? Your workspace, your creative space, like if you work from home and you create things from home, that's your 5th house. Your actual office is your 6th house. So much of your Saturn transit in the 5th house was A, trying to get you to move in with somebody and live with them, but B, it was also trying to get you to be able to carve out and develop your own space so you can do your creative work. Notice Saturn is going in and out of your 6th. Which is like, I want to have my own business, 5th house, but I'm lacking the space, Saturn, and how do I get into the schedule or the pattern or the habit of being able to do more of this work? I can give you some times where I feel like it can be better for you to be able to set some of this stuff up. I think as like a Libra rising for the last month or so, having, and you're a Virgo, and you had a Mercury retrograde over your natal Mercury, so the last month with Saturn in opposition to your Sun and Mercury retrograde, it should have had you feeling kind of squirrely and kind of feeling like, oh, I need more privacy. I need my own space. And you might have found yourself kind of hiding in places around the house and like trying to kind of like create that space because you were feeling a little kind of squirrely. Anyway, Saturn is also going to eventually fully, it kind of got close at 6 degrees, but it's coming into an opposition with your Sun at 7. So Saturn next year in the house of, office space will oppose the Sun. I need space from a man, 7, a partner to do what? To work. So it's like something's going on here where, it's going to keep coming up. And I don't know if that's about going and having like a shared communal space. I don't know if this is about creating a schedule where if there is an extra bedroom, there's time where you're working and he's not bothering you. Or if you guys start talking about moving, that can be another opportunity. I think that with the exalted Mars transit that's coming at the end of the year, it can be really wonderful for moving. Or it can be really wonderful for finding a new workspace. So when Mars goes into Capricorn, it's going to be pretty potent, and Mars is going to come into contact with your natal Neptune. So somewhere around like, let's say January 10th through, let's say the 20th, it could be a really great time to find like a workspace or move into a place where you have more space. And then another time that this could happen will be when the Sun comes into conjunction with Saturn. Granted, this will be a communal workspace. This will be the end of February 2024 when Sun, Mercury, Saturn comes into conjunction. And this could be like a WeWork, or maybe you find somebody who's got, a small office space and they're renting it, really affordably, and you have like your own little thing, but there's like a community center or other things that can be popping up here for you as well. Okay, no worries. Wrote a small novel that I live with him and currently don't have any workspace, and there's something in my 4th and my 7th. Okay. Sorry, I meant to include the space issue. Not the focal point. Okay, so what is it that you want to know? No, it's okay, it's fine. Just let me know what it is that you want to know. But basically, like, these things are going to keep coming up, I guess is what I'm getting at. And the fact that you're also having eclipses in your first house and actions in your seventh. You know, part of the issue here is Mars is coming into conjunction with the South Node. The most aligned option for you. Is a business that synthesizes my work history, fitness. Yeah, yes, it is. And, you know, we've talked about how the moon ruling your 10th house and being in the 4th, you're going to keep going back to what you've done in the past, okay? So, you know, Saturn being there represents like yoga, flexibility, you know, working with the bones, like moving through grief, processing that. Moon, Neptune, spiritually related things, especially things that relate to diet and lifestyle, Neptune. And then Uranus is at a 5, so it represents something that is personal. It's your own. It's also like creative. I do think that's a good move for you. I think the challenge is that, you know, when you have planets in the 4th house, especially if you have the moon in Capricorn, you get stuck and you're like, I keep coming back to this. So I don't know if you feel like you're in a situation where you're saying to yourself, I try to do these other things and it doesn't work. So I find myself coming back to this and I can't get away from this. Or like, this is the one thing that I feel like I really am really good at, or I'm the most passionate about, and there's no escaping it. Yoga, especially with moon conjunct Saturn, I see a lot of people who dedicate not just lifelong practices to yoga, but they end up owning yoga studios, or they end up being like a yogi and a teacher and a facilitator and a mentor. So I think that in itself also, you know, you're not going to get away from that. Doing it at home, yeah, you're going to have to find a creative way to do that. I mean, I think because it's so close to Saturn and Uranus, it's taking into consideration, you know, your 5th house, which is quite literally putting yourself on stage and doing something unconventional for the masses and showing your talent, right? Aquarius in the 5th house. You know, not everybody knows, but she's a client of mine. Our charts are very similar. We have the same stellium in the 4th house. Literally, the only reason why I'm doing what I'm doing here is because of that conjunction. North Node in the 5th house is about being on the world stage and showing other people what you've got. Aquarius is about helping the masses. So part of your talent and how you shine is finding a way to do it in an unconventional way from your home. So the question is do you want to have sessions one-on-one with people on Zoom? Do you want to create a channel? Do you want to create a subscription service where, you know, people can watch your classes or your lessons? Do you want to, you know, you're going to have to do something like that, basically. And it is going to have to involve other people because your North Node is at a 7, right? So that's the other side of this. I also feel like you got other things going on, like Chiron in the 10th house, which is going to be identifying as a healer. Like, it's not going to let you get away from this. You're going to find yourself coming back to this time and time again. There's no escaping it. What I do think is interesting is that, you know, Saturn's in opposition to your sun, so it's actually desperately trying to pull you away from certain groups or certain businesses, or working for a corporate company, or it's trying to get you to, take the space and commit to a daily grind away from other individuals. And also possibly it might cut into some of your relationship time, but that's neither here nor there. And as you go through the next 2 years, as Saturn is in your 6th house and it's opposing your sun and also your Mercury, you're going to find that it's also about time management. You know, Libra risings are not good with time management because Pisces is about where things dissolve and we're not aware, we're not paying attention, or we fall asleep, or we get sucked into a video and then we like lose track of time. So the big lesson with Saturn going through your 6th house is like really sitting down and, you know, blocking off your schedule and going, I'm working for 3 hours without distractions on this website or on this project or on this course, or, you know, developing, this new thing that I'm going to be working on. And you have a lot that's helping you. Pluto is in a trine to your Mars right now. So it's opening up the door for you to be able to have clients that may be further away. And it may also make it possible for you to do some kind of retreat work. So I think that can be the nice release with Jupiter in your 10th of not always feeling like you're landlocked. You could do a lot of one-on-one with people privately, but you could also travel and you could go and work with other, you know, teachers and collaborators and people in other places to continue to allow you to do the work and not feel like you're totally like locked in, especially with that that sun in the 12th. You're going to need that. It may be beneficial for you to be establishing relationships with like, detox centers, meditation centers, temples, retreat centers, because that's where you're going to do your best work. And you'll have the opportunity to meet with groups of people there, or maybe cut your teeth and being able to collaborate with other people so you can kind of get into some of those circles. Committing to the path of healing, and I don't like using the word have to. You have to now. You don't have a choice now. Because the North and the South Node are officially squaring your Chiron. Right? So it's saying, time to do it. Time to heal the wound. What is it ruled by? The moon. Moon's in the 4th. Wrap your home and your emotions around the idea that this is what it's going to be. Right? And it can fluctuate throughout the years, but you're always going to do some kind of that work. And the truth is that if you're not doing that work, you're going to have really bad mood issues. You're going to have like perpetual states of depression, as much as I hate to say that. But that's what will happen if you don't find a way to channel all that Saturn energy. Everything kind of gets like stuck there if you're not using it. But I would continue to do that, especially knowing that, you're now 33, so you're in an annual perfection year 10. So pay attention to the lunar eclipse that's coming in Taurus, which is your whole sign 8th house. It's about getting ready to start taking payments and being able to work with people right around the end of October. Hopefully that's helpful for you. All right, so we've got Janae. So let me plug a couple of these people in really quick because I'm at that point now. Actually, do I have her in here? Let me see. No? Okay. You can do a lot of the same stuff, my dear. Your chart is super built for it. Just start trying to find a way to take that information and streamlining it. I'm excited to see what you do. What's up, Gigi? What questions do you have for me? How can I help you? General, today's my solar return and soon Venus return. Well, happy birthday to you. Aries rising, sun in Libra, and you've got moon in Taurus. Holy cannoli! Your chart is lit up. I'm like looking at all the points. Well, you have full moon on your birthday, right? So that's pretty significant. Pretty close to your Mars also, which happens to be your chart ruler. So lots of like big conclusions this year when you have a full moon on your birthday, but when it's conjunct your chart ruler, did you opt to spend a little bit more time alone today? Were you finding that it was much more about reflection and rest and reassessing things? I'm not sure if you had the same kind of effects of the full moon as a lot of other people, but it's kind of a doozy in this chart because it's not just conjunct your Mars, but that was that 28 degrees. That was the solar eclipse degree that we had. So you're both having a full moon, but also a completion from the eclipse that we had in April. So it's reactivating that. and highlighting your natal Mars Sun opposition to where, you reflect on what you need to release or cut or heal behind the scenes to kind of come back into balance. And then you've got Mars coming into conjunction with Mercury. I don't even know what's going on in your life, but I look at this and I'm like, wow, this is a full moon that's like, let me take time to myself. Let me reassess, reevaluate, get centered, and like kind of think about what I'm leaving behind and what I'm going to be really focusing on that's new or completing in this next year. And Mars coming into conjunction with Mercury tells me like you're getting ready to tell some people like what is up in your life. I homeschool my kids, but I took a 3-hour nap. There you go. Mars in the 12th house. Like give me some space to be alone. So I mean, basically, what's getting ready to happen here with your Mars transits? I would pay attention to like the 4th. So from the 4th of October through, let's say, the 12th, this chart is lit up. Because that North Node is still conjunct your ascendant. So it's still a lot of like, what's best for me? What do I need? And then Mars and Mercury are going to come into conjunction. So this is about health, routine. This can also be about you being very particular about getting things done. It's going to conjunct the South Node, which means you're learning to let go of feeling like a people pleaser or being too understanding for other people or too, giving to other people. Or maybe you're like, I'm not going to be your coach today, or I can't tell you what to do. I just need you to do it. And then it's going to square Pluto. So those days are going to be quite intense. So just take a breath. And then it's going to kind of calm down a little bit. Okay. But more or less, it's not unusual to have a solar return, a Mercury return, a Venus return all around the same time. You've had several Venus returns, actually. I'm going to assume that you know that. But because Venus was retrograde, if you think back to the beginning of July, the mid of August, and now, every single Venus return that you've had because of the retrograde has been in your 5th house. So it's a lot of what makes me happy. What do I love? How can I have more time for creativity? How are my kids doing? How can I have more playtime? It's also been squaring your moon. So to me, it seems like the challenge revolving around your playtime and your opportunity for romance and having fun and creativity versus having to be a mom. And trying to balance the needs of what your kids need versus what you need, right? Because Venus square the moon seems to suggest that you would much rather be doing tourist-related things, eating, shopping, right? Enjoying pleasurable things, but kids have been kind of needing your attention more at the retrograde. Anyway, so 3 Venus returns is not necessarily a bad move. Venus does rule your 7th house, and I see that Pluto has been squaring it. So there's been also some changes on the horizon to what is my responsibility out in the world? What is my career? What is my status? What is my job? And definitely relational things do come up with other people during these squares. And every time you've had your Venus return, Venus has been in a square to transit Uranus. So to me, lots of changes maybe with resources, changes with self-expression, but changes also perhaps to your style, right? That could be your style, or also, believe it or not, the moon deals with like your face. So have you been playing with different colors and how it can enhance your skin tone, or have you been trying to look at different swatches or different materials or other things to enhance your looks? Has that been coming up? My parents are, I feel like they're my kids now, so actually not even my kids. So the squares to your moon, right? And Uranus being conjunct your moon, it makes you very emotionally kind of short-tempered. It can make you kind of, pop off a little bit and feel like you're being tested, because it makes you want to have freedom, especially in the 1st house. So you can kind of have a lot of like mood swings can kind of come with that conjunction, because there is a sense of like wanting to just kind of break free. So, you have a Venus return that's in a square to Uranus, and that tells me that there is like this feeling of needing to kind of maybe break with some old emotional patterns, maybe break with the relationship that you have with your mom, and kind of clearing out some mother to daughter kind of related parenting issues that can also be impacting you in relationship that you have with kids as well. So the other thing to take into consideration is also the fact that once Mars goes into Scorpio, you're going to see it really start to do some stuff, because that's where it's got a little bit more potency. So the second half of October going into November, we're going to see a pretty strong stellium of Mercury, Mars, and Scorpio in conjunction. So this represents kind of being really direct, very intense, very passionate. It's all about change, transformation, or confrontation. And it's going to start opposing Uranus. And so this is what you're going to see the end of October going into November, is that other people are going to be pushing your buttons. It might be a time where you really have to assert yourself more, and recognize that when you're changing your behavior or you're changing something about how you react to things, other people may not like it. So it can create a little bit of some relationship disruption. So just make a mental note, end of October going into November, that is also in the skies. And on the back burner, I also want you to be paying attention to what's going to be happening in Capricorn time. So December, January, that's going to be very significant for career. You're going to have a really strong stellium of like Mars and Pluto and other planets coming into conjunction, and it's about being on top of things, managing things, and it's going to be a lot about your career. But lots of activations that are coming that are still from the last eclipse in April. So if you thought about some of the intentions you were setting for yourself in April, now they're coming full circle. And as you're starting to really implement some of these personal changes with your assertiveness, your goals, how you carry yourself, how you think, that kind of stuff. Some people may not always respond well to that change. So just a word to the wise, just watch for that. And maybe go and look at your Venus return chart. It's something that you can definitely cast, but you're going to have Venus that's going to be square Uranus. So that means there's going to definitely be some changes in some relationships that you're having. And with the moon there, I wonder if it's going to be with your mom, your home, or with your if you have a daughter. It could definitely be. It could be that for sure. But happy birthday. I hope that that's helpful for you, giving you some food for thought. Maybe go and also study on the eclipses, just in general, conjuncting your 7th house, South Node eclipses. You're going to have one that's going to be not just on your birthday, but you're going to have one that's also going to be on your sun, and that's going to be March of 2024. So that won't be your birthday, but this one's also one hell of an eclipse because it's directly on your sun, and then the sun is on your Mars. So there's going to be more of this that's going to be coming. Right. Marisol says, my friends in Aries with a Libra rising, they have been through so many setbacks. Oof, yeah, it has been real. Libra Aries placements are getting hit pretty hard. All right, so I've got Rockin, Danielle, Christina, and Tonya. So let me get Tonya in here. Did I get your birth info? Tonya, I need your birth information, not just your question. I don't think I have you, but I'll look. Oh, no, I got you. I take that back. April 15th, right? Hey, Carrie, happy full moon. What's up, Alex? Cobabs. Okay, should I look into one-on-one clients via my YouTube channel or focus elsewhere? I hope to replace the 9-to-5 someday. Okay. Well, so 7th house is clients. Let's put the transits there now. There we go. 7th house is clients. Saturn will be coming up into conjunction with this pretty soon. You have got the Mars transit coming into your 3rd, which can be really great for really ramping up a YouTube channel, especially after the solar eclipse. So I look at like the solar eclipse that's going to happen, and then maybe like on the 15th, when Mars and the moon come into the 3rd house and they trine Saturn. That's a great time to really be focusing on like your channel and connecting with people. Maybe even like, you know, Mars moon is like, you may feel inclined to be like, I'm going to do a live, or I'm going to, you know, try to like post and like let people know when I'm going to be, you know, doing donation based readings. Like you may feel some impulse to do something like that. That might come up. And then the other thing that's working in your favor is you have all of these, you know, North Node activations going on in your 8th house, which can be about bringing in money from other people. Now, I would assume because Mars rules this part of your chart that Mars aspects can bring that in. So I wonder, like, is your channel set up for that? You know, do you have something set up on a website where people can be doing like paid readings with you? Obviously, I can see that you're going to do better having people at a distance. So I do think that you would prefer either being able to have it so you can do the reading and maybe email it to someone. You know, all readers are different. Some people are going to want to do the reading and record it and send it off. Some people are going to, you know, make you wait a month and then send you a written report. But you're a very private person with your moon in the 4th and all those planets in the 8th. And I think that you want to feel like you can go through the readings very quickly. So, yeah, I think that the lives can be good, but I'm going to go out on a limb here. Do you not want to show your face? Moon in the 4th house, sun in the 8th house. Would you prefer not to show your face during these readings? Which is fine. You don't have to. I certainly wouldn't if I didn't have to. I kind of got stuck into that one, but you know, the 8th house is just private. That's the only reason why I asked that. And so I'm looking at all of these, you know, transits in your 8th, and I wonder if there's another way to do it. Definitely, it might be good to promote yourself on the lives, but I think that Aries is like quick and fast. And you do have Saturn in the 6th, so you're having to manage your time better. So if you feel like your time is not always the best spent sitting on a live hoping that you're going to sell readings, another option is maybe find ways to go and promote like types of readings that you can do. So I wonder if it's like you go, okay, here's, you know, $25-$30 for a love spread or a financial spread or whatever. And it's like a down and dirty, you know, Aries 8th house kind of like reading, where you have a set price and then, you know, you give yourself X amount of time, and then that's the kind of reading that you do. So that way it's directed at particular things. It's not just kind of like this open-ended thing. I don't know. I would assume maybe showing your face helps, but I mean, I don't know. I listen to a lot of people that, you know, you don't know what they look like, but they're definitely decent readings. The other thing that also kind of comes to mind is that, you know, Saturn is kind of in a square to your midheaven right now, and that's going to be the case until the new year. So it's both in a square to your moon as well as your midheaven. So that is going to have you kind of feeling like, ooh, is it a good idea to take clients? You know, am I going to be able to, you know, make this work and connect with people and make money too? And, you know, how do I feel about this, especially because, you know, if it's from home, and do I have the home space to be able to kind of like do this? Because not a lot of people realize that, yeah, you like create like a set, you know. I actually happen to work here where you see everything you see here, but this is my office, but we turn it into a set when we film these. So I could see the square to the moon being like, do I have the space, and also do I have the community for it? Do I have the audience, right? The moon rules the 11th house. Would be a really good idea for you to break up your time. So try to have it set up so you have certain readings that you can do, maybe do some of those lives, but start dropping your services into like reading groups, whether it's tarot groups or, you know, whatever. Find a place where you can go in and you can promote your services. because that's a good way to work with the moon square Saturn and like finding ways to let other people know that, you know, you have a reading available. You may consider also, that's the other thing, the 8th house is making money through other people. You may consider going and looking at apps. Like you might go and look at like certain apps and like websites that hire readers, and you get paid X amount per minute, or, you know, maybe people see you on an app and they click, you know, your name and go, oh, I want a reading with her. And then you get paid per reading. You might decide to kind of diversify because you have, you know, mutables on your midheaven that you're like, well, I have my website, but I'm also promoting myself on another website to hopefully, you know, bring in more clicks. That could be another way that you can do it. But the 8th house is going to be about making money through other people. And maybe that's what needs to happen to be able to get a little bit of like a jump off before Saturn is fully in your 7th house next year. And then you may have more stable and kind of like consistent clients that you're working with, I would imagine. And that's right around the time that Saturn's getting ready to hit 7. So that'll be right around February. So I don't think it's going to be entirely that long. And yeah, you have Mercury conjunct Saturn. So that's the other thing, is that, you know, that's kind of indicating for you to be able to make the money you want to make, then you have to be willing to transform your career, 8th house, and you have to be entrepreneurial, right? Aries is somebody who goes and initiates something. They start something brand new. It's a trailblazing energy. So it's also saying that you kind of have to go into some uncharted territory and be willing to go and do some stuff that you're not used to doing. So whether that's I'm going to start a website, or I'm going to launch an Etsy, or I'm going to, you know, do live readings, like you have to go and start something completely new, right? But big risk, big reward. By the time that North Node hits your Venus, you might be pretty pleased that you've done that, because that could be bringing in a substantial amount of money. You might see a nice pop next spring, and then by the time the North Node is hitting your Venus, you might find that you're like, wow, I'm really glad that I made this change, because your Venus is at an 8, and find that, yeah, it's going well. And you're in your nodal return. That's the other thing. So, you know, the nodal return is and the eclipse next spring is definitely about you kind of coming into what your purpose is in regards to your work. And what I like about this is it can allow you also to like do some kind of teaching down the road as well, right? But as much as I'm not a fan of the apps personally, but for some people it's great, because you could go and put your profile in 2 or 3 different apps, and if you've got clicks coming in all of the time, and then you're also building your own kind of website and your own services, you might be able to bring people in. So I definitely would, yeah, I would diversify in that sense. And I like that you said you were working on making changes to was it your kitchen? Your dining area. I like that. I like that a lot. Sag moon in the 4th. Life on the road. Yeah, watch for the transits in your 3rd. That would be a great time to start applying for like apps, or starting up, you know, the YouTube stuff, or maybe even focusing on a channel or on a website. I would start that right after the eclipse mid-month. Okay? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Okay, so we've got Rockin', right, which I think was Broken Arrow, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And then Danielle and Christina. So let me plug these in really quick. Deborah. May 1st, 1965. 1:59 a.m. And then we've got Danielle. Christina. All right, so we've got Deborah here, and she's May 1st, 65, 1:59 a.m. in Detroit. Changing career from government office work to writing a family history book. Is it time? I'm going to refrain from making negative comments about the government. All right, so let's talk about why this is happening now. I love that being an Aquarius rising, you have all of that Taurus that's in the whole sign, fourth house, which is about ancestry, roots, the past, like where we come from. So in recent years, you've had Uranus going through your fourth house, which means there's been like this awakening to where you come from and who you are and your lineage and your family and all the shocks and surprises and the twists and the turns that led you to having a better understanding of like why you are who you are and who your mother and your father were. And the whole sign fourth house, Taurus, is about roots, farms, agriculture, and working with the land. It's in your Placidus third house, which means it opened up your mind and got you thinking about why you have the interests and the knowledge that you have. Jupiter, quite literally, is about telling a story. It's also sometimes about publishing. So all of this makes sense timing-wise. I think the other thing is that you are coming into your second Saturn's return, which is going to be happening here in this next year. And Saturn isn't a sign that deals with publishing, but it's in the first house of like goals for the self. And it also is in a degree that deals with resources and values. And so there can be this sense of you going like, I want to make money in a way that feels like it's in alignment with my beliefs, right? And you do have Saturn square the node, so how interesting. So that does represent kind of like when you have your Saturn return, think back to when you were 29, 30, like learning how to define yourself, right? Saturn transits usually are about being like, I am this thing. This is how I want to be known out in the world. Saturn is disposited by Jupiter. Jupiter is conjunct your IC in Gemini, which means you want to be known as a writer. And so you've got Pluto right now that is coming into a trine with that. So it's a very powerful time to be really digging deep and writing and sharing some kind of wisdom that stems from your family lineage. Yes, for sure. Right on. Family arrived here in 1642. Hell yeah. So, I think it's a really good time. I think that I feel inclined to tell you slow and steady wins the race, but you're a Taurus, so you already know that. But I think about how Saturn is getting ready to come into an opposition with your Mars, which is technically about publishing. And it also can be, because you have Mars in Virgo, about going back and forth with somebody who's editing it or reading it or giving you feedback, or maybe like a publishing agent. For God's sakes, don't turn this over to your spouse if you have one, because you guys are going to go round and round because they're going to be very hypercritical and it's not going to go over well. So this is about finding somebody else basically to go through it and help you make sure that not only is it ready to go, but that it tells the story well, that it's got some sense of organization to it. Like, God bless you, you got Saturn in Pisces, which means you're really good about the vision, but bringing it together is not your strong suit. Okay, no offense. You're really great about telling the story and getting into it, but I wonder, who is this person that's going to come in that's going to help you? People who can help you are the moon. And so right now Jupiter is in conjunction to moon. So it tells me that joining writers groups, institutions, maybe finding like other independent artists and and writers, it can be great for you to start talking to those people. because those are going to be your people, and they're going to kind of help you, give you feedback, and give you some kind of direction on, well, do you publish it yourself? Do you not? Do you go and find a publishing agent? Do you not? And maybe even connect you with with an editor. Oh, your husband's a Gemini. Okay, makes sense. Yeah. I'm telling you right now, when Saturn opposes your Mars, if you try to turn this over to your partner, you guys are going to go round and round about this. I'm just going to spare you. Maybe find somebody who can help you work on it. And, while Jupiter is conjunct your Sun and your Moon and your Venus all this year, like, you're loving writing, you're enjoying it. Like, it's a once in a 12-year cycle where it's kind of like flowing out of you. And you have opportunities also to write blogs or create media or create other little things to start building who you are as a writer prior to getting ready to put something on the market. So I'm also wondering, do you just want to write this book because you feel like this book needs to kind of come out because it's coming through you, because it's coming through your ancestors? Or do you feel like it's I want to build my name and I want to be somebody who's got some kind of background in agriculture, and I would maybe like to have a blog or a YouTube channel or social media, and I want people to see what I'm doing, and I'm taking pictures on the farm, and I'm becoming somebody who's more than just a writer, you're a personality. And I think you would have a lot of knowledge and a lot that you can share with people, and I think you can make money doing that. I think about Jupiter ruling your whole sign second house, and I'm like, it's a good idea, because if you have a farm and you're able to produce products or other things that you could potentially sell, Taurus is cattle, but it could be leather, it could be Venus is there. You might sell sweets, you might sell baked goods, you might sell fruit. I wonder if you also are considering selling like a recipe book or other things. I don't know, honey. That could be something else. That you're okay, here's the book, but we also have products, come to the farm, buy from us, right? And so then it starts becoming this whole business that can really grow. You're not just relying on the books. There's other things that you could be producing and other content you could be putting out that's kind of generating more interest in what you're doing. So what might be a book that you self-publish within a year of doing some of this third house work could end up being, you start getting more traction, recognition, and then more people want to buy your books, and then they might want to buy products, right? But with Jupiter in conjunction, your Sun, Moon, and Venus, girl, I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do there. And I don't think that you're just good when it comes to, running the ranch. That's a lot of aesthetics. That's designing your home. That's the farmhouse style. That's making things beautiful and planting flowers and having gardens. And it's way more than just growing things. You grow pretty things. Stellium in the third house, sextile Saturn in the first. Something else that might come up for you more is also going to be things revolving around agriculture and water. So I don't know if it's going to be you're learning more about, some of these agricultural ponds and things that they have. That's you have the whole ecosystem that's helping grow the food, or they have some of the the fish farms that also help grow food, but that might become an interest of yours as well. Just food for thought. And I wonder what other home goodies you can create with this transit. But the long and short of it is, yes, I think it's a good idea. You have a solar eclipse coming in your whole sign ninth. That can indicate you're getting ready to write a book that you would eventually maybe publish down the road. I would like to see something significant going on with your ninth house lord, which is Mars. And I think after a brief period of time in the new year where Saturn is in opposition to your Mars, you come out of it and then you can publish something. You could do something like when Jupiter is trining your ascendant next summer, or you can do something when you have maybe the Sun trine Saturn next fall. Those would be two different times that I would consider maybe getting ready to publish something. But I definitely think now is a good time when you're well on your way, and I would really recommend doing it while Jupiter is either in Taurus or Jupiter's definitely, it's next year. So keep it up. Keep up the good work, because that's really interesting. I would love to hear what that's about, because you have very, very talented people in your family. And I wonder if it's either siblings or there's aunts or there's uncles. There's other people that you can still talk to right now who are older. And while Jupiter is there, there's a lot of like talking to them or getting information or, you know, compiling information about the family or the past. Because I don't think it's just about telling the story. I think it's more than that. Saturn is sextiling this. It seems to be like a story of teaching people how to live more sustainably or closer to the land. Good luck. Okay, so we got Danielle, who is here 7:25:77, 7:55 p.m. Okay, and then this was 5:06:88, but we don't know the time. Then it's definitely going through some of the info that you have. If everyone's passed, it's going through whatever you have left over from the family that you might uncover, especially when Jupiter goes retrograde. Things you might find in the home or old journals or other artifacts or other things relating to the family. All right, so Danielle says, we haven't spoken since April. He won't respond. I still believe he's my person. What do you see? Any advice? Thank you. All right, so Danielle, let's just look at your chart first. So you're a Capricorn rising, Sag moon, and you have all these planets in Leo in your 7th. Man, it seems like the last couple months, especially since about May, June, the Venus retrograde kind of kicking your butt a little bit here because it's gone directly retrograde through your Saturn and your Mercury, which is blocking off communication. So that could have, would have, should have been a time where if somebody was going to come back around, that Venus retrograde could have brought them back around. Your moon is what rules relationships, and right now Saturn is squaring the moon, so there is some challenge in emotional relating to partners. Okay, big things change around obviously new moons, full moons, or when there are transits to your 7th house lord. So Saturn will come out of the square in the new year with your moon, and relationships may open up more, but you're also going to see in the new year Pluto will oppose your sun, and that represents like a lot of having to move through difficult, painful experiences with other people in regards to relationships, and so that can sometimes be a little bit of like a longer transit. Now we don't know the time that this person was born, but I've got May 6th, just want to double check, May 6th, 88. And that was in Kingston. So we know that they're a sun in Taurus and a moon in Capricorn, right? So obviously moon ascendant, you know, 5th house synastry, great synastry. But the question is there going to be a reconnection, right? Will you guys reconnect? Well, a couple things that come to mind, you know, being a Taurus sun, the eclipses in Scorpio and, you know, Taurus are definitely pretty significant. There was an eclipse in the spring that could have really impacted the relationship between the two of you. And there's yet another eclipse that's coming in Taurus, which is going to make some Taurus suns a little bit more self-focused or a little bit more selfish. And you're also going to see that there is a North Node 12th house right here to their sun. So a lot of them are kind of hiding out a little bit. For you, there's also eclipses that are coming that are very close to your North Node. And it does kind of represent like a turning point in regards to the future with relationships. So outside of, you know, the dynamic that you have with him. I'm looking at like the Chiron, Venus, Jupiter stuff, and it can be about coming together to heal things, but it can also like create wounds here as well. But really for me, this is going to come down more to a composite for timing. And obviously like this is a loose composite, right? Because we don't have his ascendant. We have your ascendant, but we don't have his. So I'm going to be focusing more on the aspects rather than the ascendant, because that's probably not going to be accurate given the timing. But like the midpoint is going to basically take the midpoint in both of your guys' charts. And what it creates is a composite chart that is astrology that never technically happened. So you will sometimes see some aspects that are not possible. But you can use this to have a better understanding of what's going on with the timing. And so there's already some stuff off the bat that's popping up. For starters, you guys together have a Pluto-Saturn conjunction in Libra. And so just recently, the South Node came into conjunction with that, and Mars is there. So there can be this building pressure that's like, okay, getting kind of nervous, haven't heard from that person, we're still not kind of mending the relationship, you know, is it coming to the end? Because the South Node can represent releasing things and Mars can be cutting something off. So as the South Node and Mars quite literally come the beginning of October, meet on these planets, can it bring you guys back together? Yeah, but likely with Mars, Pluto, and Saturn coming into conjunction, it's like, it's not a pleasant meeting. So it's not a time that you want to push it, because if you're reaching out, there could be somebody who kind of snaps back and they're like, I'm not ready to talk yet, or like, I need some space. That's not the easiest time to connect, in my opinion. Then you're going to also have a solar eclipse that's going to be near these degrees, and that's going to be around mid-October. And then the sun is going to as well come into contact with these degrees. And when that happens, this is all squaring Pluto. So it seems to be about whether or not, you know, somebody feels like they have control over the situation or not, or maybe you're dealing with like long-standing issues that keep coming up in the relationships. You know, outside of that, you guys have some other things that do create some issues in the relationship in general. And like, I'm very confident that you have these issues because, you know, the sun and the Venus midpoint is going to be pretty bang on. Same thing with like the moon and the Neptune, pretty bang on, even if we don't have the time. And so when I look at this, you know, we've got a sun that is, you know, so close to Venus that Venus is combust, which means that there can be problems in love between the two people, or that there can be issues and, you know, things going on with other people getting involved. Does that mean there has to be a third person? No. Sometimes the third person can be a relationship they never healed from, or something that they never kind of moved past or like forgave. So it can create issues in an existing relationship. When we see Venus combust in a composite chart, especially really close to the South Node, it can represent moving through some karma in a relationship. You guys are a composite full moon in Sagittarius. So the moon is in Sag, the sun is in Gemini. And so, you know, watching the moon and Neptune, which is very dreamy, romantic, kind of like otherworldly, losing yourself in each other, a very psychic connection, oppose Venus and oppose the sun. That tells me that it highlights a few themes here. Number one, that there's huge cultural differences between the two of you. I'm going to go out on a limb here, but like, you know, apparently you're from Minnesota and he's from Jamaica. So I think that that's pretty bang on. So whether that's where you're born or that's your actual culture, there's some divide here with this opposition. Two is there can be actual physical distance, because this can talk about the distance between two parties physically. You've got a full moon, which is going to amplify the themes of relationship issues. And you've got Venus, which is relating in opposition to Neptune. So there can be situations where you're overly idealizing somebody is willing to sacrifice everything, they're really in love with them, the other person is kind of ghosty, they're not always showing up the way that you need them to show up. And this all trines Saturn and Pluto, sextile Saturn and Pluto. Now, right now, we have Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, and it's coming to square these things. So what this basically means is that, you know, you're getting ready to see a situation where, whether it's this year or the next 2 years, Saturn and Neptune square these 2 points will bring more issues into the potential relationship. I don't want to say it's in the 5th house because we don't know, but, you know, basing it off of this chart, it's saying whether or not you guys both want the same thing in relationships, if you both want the same thing in regards to children, if somebody has or has not dealt with childhood issues, if somebody has a kid and that's inhibiting them from committing further. But still, I don't want to say that because we don't know the exact time. But knowing that Neptune and Saturn are going to square these points means that you're going to be at yet another turning point in about 2 years' time. And you're also looking at, because this is ruled by Mercury, Saturn's going to come into a trine with Mercury next year. I mean, I think it's very obvious to me that there can be a sense of, with Venus in opposition to Neptune, like sometimes falling in love with potential and idealizing or thinking things are going to go a certain way, only to realize like, oh, that's not really how this is working out. And like I said about your transits, the concerning thing is that Pluto is coming into an opposition with your sun. It quite literally means that you're going through a period of time that's really challenging for you emotionally, or you're dealing with some power struggles revolving around being the person who feels like you can't possess what you want, and whether that's money that you want that you feel like you can't obtain, or a goal that you want that you feel like you can't obtain, or a relationship. Pluto in opposition to the sun at a 2 is like you reaching your breaking point, because you just, no matter what you do, you feel like you can't get what you want. And at a 2, it can also mean that there can be some stress going on with a partnership in regards to financial or money related things. So that's not really going to perfect until closer to next year. Do I think it's possible for somebody from the past to come back? I mean, you're really looking at a retrograde involving your moon. There will be a retrograde in Sag at the end of the year. But I don't think it's going to be over your moon. No, it's going to be pretty close to like your Neptune. So it could be maybe at the end of the year, but even that's really pushing it. I mean, it is going to be in opposition to your Venus and your Jupiter. But your composite chart seems to think that even if you guys do come back together in some capacity, you still may not have clarity about whether or not you guys want the same thing. And I wonder, regardless, I mean, only you're going to know, but what came up between the two of you guys when you guys split? I think you said it was, did you say it was in June? May? June? Where is it? I think. I don't know. Let me know. But I'd be curious to see when it is you guys broke up. April. You haven't spoken since April. So, okay, so I don't know when in April, but I'm looking at the eclipse. There was a solar eclipse that was around the 18th, 19th. And that eclipse was right in opposition to your guys' Saturn and Pluto, which is about the defining ending period with a relationship. So that does not surprise me. So now here comes Mars crossing these degrees. So it can be finally about whether or not somebody's going to push back and be like, hi, are we still going to make this work or what? Which you could be in right now. I told him if he doesn't want me to tell him, he only kept saying he doesn't have time. That's all. Yeah, I mean, I think always doesn't have time. I think the 15th. So it was right around the eclipse. People having time, I mean, for you, that's more Saturn related. And I think with Jupiter and Uranus in your whole sign 5th house is unexpected changes with love with a younger person. So that kind of checks out. But also, like I said, and this was a big if there was going to be a sense of reconnecting, my money would have been on during this Venus retrograde. And if that didn't happen, then, you kind of have to take a step back. And maybe when Saturn comes out of a square with your moon, things can be better. Timing can be better. But that outer Pluto opposed your sun is a pretty gnarly transit. And that's going to start up right around February when, Venus, Pluto, Mars start opposing your sun. And that's when you're going to get like really adamant and really passionate about what you want. Your other best bet is to wait until you have a Jupiter transit, and that'll be next summer, where Jupiter's going to hit your Mars and your Venus and your Jupiter, and that could be another opportunity. But generally speaking, to be honest with you, I really feel like with the nodes that are, making the reverse nodal return, there's a lot of changes going on in relationships right now, and it's supposed to be bringing people in who are not going to make you feel like you have to be fixated on trying to get them to see things. Because, yeah, I would go and study Pluto in opposition to your sun, because it's going to be whether or not you feel like you have control over relationships. And the lesson here, I think, is going to be about working with planets that are going to be positively aspecting your moon, and it's going to be people who are going to be not making you feel like you're in the dark. But the composite perhaps may be the end of December, right? You had said that in July, but Mom was hospice and passed. I didn't know if he had an effect on him somehow. I simply want to be happy in a relationship. Yeah, but the issue is that you're still dealing with somebody who's got so many Uranus transits going on. I mean, Uranus is still really close to his sun, is close to his Juno. Obviously, we don't know the time, but until he has like an easier transit with his Mars, because Mars rules his, let's say, whole sign 7th, Uranus is still conjunct his sun square Mars. Until Uranus comes out of his square with Mars, things aren't going to settle down with relationships. That's going to be the new year, right? And a lot of Tauruses are super, super fixated on what's going on with career because Pluto's going into their 7th house, right? See what happens in mid-December. That would be the next window for me, that if something could connect, it would be that. Hopefully that is helpful for you. We've got Christina. She said, can you share clarity on what my chart shows in terms of career for me? I've been in between phases for quite a while, struggling to know what direction to take in order to have some movement towards my aligned soul path. Good question. So you're a Cancer rising, and your sun is in Leo, and your moon is in the sign of Libra. Okay. So a couple things. First things first, being a Cancer rising, you're having North Node eclipses in your 10th house. So this is a big time for you. This is a once in a, 18-ish year period where the trajectory of where you're going with your professional life is brand new. It's exciting. You're, doing something that's going to probably be kind of like trailblazing, right? The 10th house is about career and public reputation. It is ruled by Mars, and you have Mars technically in your whole sign 12th house. So it can represent working behind the scenes. It can represent, writing something, editing something, talking about something media related, but it can also be about continuing education. Oftentimes when I see Mars in the 12th house, this is somebody who goes back to school when they're older to get some kind of certification or degree, or somebody who realizes they want to do something different and then they return. So I don't know if that's, if you resonate with that, if that has happened or not, but I do see that. I think about how Neptune is squaring Mars, and there can be a lot of I want to do something different, but I don't know what I want to study, and I'm not sure, and I'm confused, and I don't want to commit to something because I don't know. And I think about Jupiter coming into your 12th house next year, which could give you the opportunity to do that, and also your Saturn return. To me, because Saturn is in the 9th house of higher education, right around the time you have your Saturn return and then you have a Jupiter transit, it might indicate that you do some kind of new education or schooling next year. It's possible, depending on what your background is. In terms of recently, you've also had Venus been going retrograde, so you've been reevaluating what you love and what you value, and it's in your 2nd house. So you're looking at, well, what skills do I possess, and where do I need to develop better skills or do more, and how could I make more money? And Venus went retrograde over your Mercury, which rules your 12th house. So it can mean that you've been thinking about your dream occupation, your dream job, what you could be good at, what you could study. But there's also a sense of you that's trying to be more realistic. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting, and trying to find the best way to be able to navigate, making some of these professional changes. You had a solar eclipse here in April. And now you're having a full moon, which means there's something going on where you're needing to kind of complete something revolving around what you've been doing. So it might mean that you're realizing you're putting something that you've been doing to rest and you're ready to kind of embrace the new. Technically, your midheaven is Pisces, which is ruled by Jupiter. And Pisces can be about hidden places, hospitals, foreign land, spiritual centers, nonprofits, things in regards to film or media or sets, things behind the scenes. And I noticed that you have your Mars there. And the ruler of this is both Jupiter and Neptune. Okay, so you have Jupiter in the 5th, and your natal Neptune is in the 7th. So I'd be curious what you have done in the past. I think that you would do very well. I mean, honestly, your career is going to change a lot throughout your life because your midheaven is at a 20. So that means that there will be many transformations in your professional life. But ultimately, something that is either creative, right, Jupiter in the 5th, with children, with investments, with stocks, with being self-employed and taking chances, with something that can be also like Scorpio-like. So, something involving like crisis or counseling or helping people work through regenerative issues. Got my master's in speech pathology, and I worked for 2 years at the beginning of COVID. To leave my job, I no longer resonate with that field at all anymore. Okay. So have you given any thought to what you want to do? It makes sense that you've done speech pathology. I wonder, did you work specifically with children? Because Sun conjunct Mercury can be children, second house, Leo, making money with speech, with younger people, but the square was to the nodes. And with small jobs helping medical intuitive healers within their businesses since then. I like that. I think for you, to be honest, it looks to me like the answer is going to be about doing your own thing. I mean, I know it sounds kind of ambiguous, but Scorpio can be private. 5th house is going to be something that you own. Scorpio is very powerful. So if you have Jupiter, the North Node, and Pluto there, it means that you're using something about your psychological talent, your ability to understand things and like direct people, to the best of your abilities. And Pisces also can be about, working with healers and spiritual people. Yeah, pediatric children. Yeah, I think that, personally, if this were me, you have to think about what it is that you want to do. As you're coming into your Saturn return, because your Saturn is at a 10, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, next year is a very important year. Not only because, Saturn return is when you kind of lay the groundwork for all the important things that you need to do, but Saturn conjunct Saturn at a 10 in the 9th means that you're committing to something like long-term. You might start marketing your services. You might do some kind of training or workshop, or you decide that you want to write something or publish something. It might mean that you do want to go and take some courses, but it's going to be for something that's going to help you more spiritually. It's going to be less like going and getting, real technical degrees. It's going to be something revolving around, creative or spiritual stuff. And with your North Node conjunct Pluto in the 5th, I mean, you're here to help teach people how to change and transform. It's a very powerful conjunction to have. It squares your Sun, which means you're learning to move away from Sun Mercury. I have to have the money, the resources, the possessions. I have to have that stuff. And you're moving deeper into the fulfillment that you get from being able to work with people creatively and wanting to be able to kind of help them transform, potentially their businesses. So I wonder, are you going to do like more coaching work? Are you going to go and get more background specifically in business to help you learn about marketing some of the skills that you have? Well, I mean, the good news is that, you still have time, right? So like you're going to have eclipses here next spring, where I'm going to be honest with you, if you haven't figured it out by next spring, there's definitely some stuff coming up that is going to be, I'm not going to say forcing you to, but it's really putting the pressure on you to figure it out, because you're going to have a North Node eclipse in the 10th house, conjunct Chiron. So 10th house is career, solar eclipse, new actions. This will be ruling by Mars, and Mars will be conjunct Saturn. So it looks like you're either taking a course or you're getting ready to start a marketing program. Just a word to the wise. That's a difficult eclipse to have because it's going to be conjunct Chiron. I mean, it's going to affect everybody collectively in a very challenging way. But this particular eclipse in the 10th house, it can be about going through a series of painful events where you have to heal the wound revolving around your career. That eclipse is going to square your Neptune, and it's going to oppose your moon. So this means that you don't want to wait until April of next year to be like, well, oh shit, I don't have a job, or, there's a health crisis that comes up, and then I have to take time to heal myself, and I realize that there's this work I'm supposed to do, right? So, and I say that so you're aware, because that's sometimes how these eclipses manifest. The positive is that it is going to trine your sun and your Mercury. So it does make me feel like maybe you're putting something out there where you're helping other people heal wounds revolving around communication and, you know, being able to express themselves and getting the word out and helping them with their business. And that could be your whole thing. But sometimes those eclipses manifest as if you're in the wrong position, you're in the wrong job, you can start having some health related issues or some other emotional related issues, which can really inhibit you from you know, staying on that path. So you're kind of not forced, but pushed to make a change. And you have a lot of eclipses activating your chart this next year. I mean, literally every eclipse is activating your chart. Ready? Let's take a look at it. So solar eclipse on your moon, October 14th. So something's going on with home, family, or your relationships to home. Then you're going to have a lunar eclipse that's going to be in Taurus, which is directly in opposition to your Jupiter. Then you're going to have a lunar eclipse directly on your Venus in the 4th house. Major changes with relationships with home and family, maybe partnerships. And you're going to have this eclipse that's directly in opposition to your moon square Neptune. Like, holy cow. All of these eclipses are really impacting you, and it's all work and home. So there's changes emotionally with the home and the feeling and the family, changes going on with your career. And so I guess I would always encourage somebody who's having eclipses in Aries to do something they've never done before, to get outside of your comfort zone, to do it on your own, to work for yourself, to go your own way. And even if you wait until 2025, you're still having these eclipses that are still happening on your IC and on your midheaven. So it's going to go still for another year. But it's about what you're initiating now. And yeah, you're going to have to, until Uranus comes out of a square with your sun, you're going to have to somehow stay in some kind of field where you're making consistent money. But the breakaway may actually start to come for you next spring, right around the time of the eclipses and when you're having Uranus come out of a square with your sun. And you're freeing yourself from making money in a way that you have for some time, right? And then finally, Saturn will come in conjunction with your midheaven, kind of like June of next year, but it won't officially hit until 2025. And when your Saturn return is done, when you have a Venus retrograde in the 10th, and then Saturn goes into the 10th house, I would assume you're making a full-blown transition in the spring of 2025. And you're like, this is what I'm doing now. And it's going to be better supported in your chart then as well. Okay. Some of you guys who are popping in, what's going on? We've been doing readings by donation. If you guys can see me, give me a thumbs up, please. Like the stream. It's really helpful for the algorithm. Just want to make sure we got everybody. Okay, cool. Just a couple things before we wrap up. So I will be back here next week. We're going to be doing tarot, so you can catch me here next Friday. If you ever wanting to get a reading for any of my lives, you can find this usually on Thursday. We post it on my community tab. You'll see that if you are subscribed to the channel. So subscribe now, click the bell button below. Go watch the horoscopes. They're out for October. Go watch the full moon and Aries video if you guys haven't already seen that. It's taking place this morning, but it's still going into tomorrow. We've got eclipses and stuff coming. So if you guys want to know more about the eclipses, head over to my website at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. You guys can pick up my eclipse webinar. I did a 3-hour webinar on the eclipses in October, all about it for the 12 signs, all about how it's going to impact the world. What else? And I have new calendars and stuff too. So if you guys like the calendar that's behind me, I designed 2 of them. They are now for sale on my website. And we are getting ready to put out the new 2024 astrology calendar. So make sure you join my newsletter so you're up to date as to when I have new content coming out on the channel. I will be back here next week, like I said. But you guys can catch me for the astro weather on Wednesday. Excuse me, on Wednesday. Hello. On Sunday. So on Sunday morning, we're going to do the astro weather and talk about all of the astrology for the month of October. So lots of good stuff coming up on the channel. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and consider joining my memberships if you want to support my work. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out with me on a Friday night. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I'm sure I will see all of you guys very soon. Take care.